Hi everyone, so back with another tier list this morning. And I thought I'd do all the films of Studio Ghibli. They're probably my favorite animation studio out there. Been a big fan of their work for like, I don't know, about 7 or 8 years now since I found out about them. I love their hand-drawn animation and that they really stick with that throughout their whole kind of era that they've had since the mid 80s. And they're coming up to their final, I think it's going to be their final film. It's the final Hayao Miyazaki movie anyway. It's coming out in a few months, so that's pretty exciting. It'll be their first official, like theatrical film since 2014, and their first film since their TV movie a couple of years ago. Um, so yeah, I'm just going to rank them on a tier list. There are a couple here at the bottom of this list that aren't officially Studio Ghibli films, but they are related, so I'm not really going to rank those ones. So like from here on, I'll probably just put them in the haven't seen. I've seen this one, Castle of Cagliostro, and I've seen The Red Turtle. Mary and the Witch's Flower and Modest Heroes I've seen as well, but yeah, these aren't Ghibli films, so I'll just put them in this row here. So we'll start at the start here, and this is way back when they first officially, or even before they began, with Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. It came out like the year before the studio actually formed, I believe, but it's kind of their first official film, I guess. Not really official, but like most people consider it their first film because it was directed by Miyazaki and music by Joe Hisaishi, and a lot of the people that went on to make Studio Ghibli or form it worked on this film. So I'm not a huge fan of this movie. I know a lot of people love it, but for me, it's more of a C tier. It's got some nice animation, but it is a bit basic in comparison to what they'd come to be known for, and it's a bit retro, and like I don't think it's aged as well as a lot of their other films have. But it's not a bad movie. It's really a C because it is quite imaginative and creative with storytelling. Um, Next up, we have Castle in the Sky, or Laputa Castle in the Sky. This is one of my personal favorites, and it's an easy S tier for me. This was the first official Ghibli film from 1986, I think, and another one directed by Miyazaki, and it's just so creative and fun. Has a great musical score, great visuals. This one holds up really well. I think the fact that it's all hand-drawn animation kind of makes it a bit ageless, like it doesn't seem to age like CGI does, and computer-generated effects. So I really like that about this studio, and this film especially really captures that early on for them. Next up, we have Grave of the Fireflies, one of their more realistic and sadder films. I'm not a huge fan of this. I've only watched it once, and I've never had a real desire to watch it again. It's not a bad movie, though. It's just that it's quite depressing and dark, um, and very sad. Like I know a lot of people that love this movie, though, but personally, I think it's probably C tier because it is good, but it's not really rewatchable and or as enjoyable as some of their other films. Next up, we have My Neighbor Totoro, which came out the same year in 1988. It's another easy S tier. This is a Miyazaki film again. Probably one of their most famous, if not their most famous movies. Totoro is like one of the most iconic Japanese anime characters of all time. But yeah, it's a great movie. It's one of them ones that I actually didn't really like it the first time I watched it for some reason, but a few of these movies, after I've come to rewatch them, I really enjoy them a lot more. And Totoro is one of those films. Um, yeah, it's just really fun, really original and creative, and a really great kids movie as well. A lot better than some of the stuff we get nowadays. That goes for like most of these family films, actually, to be honest. Kiki's Delivery Service is pretty good. I don't love it. It's probably a B tier, to be honest. It's good. I do like the animation. I like the story and the music. It kind of feels like I don't know, like a Animal Crossing or Zelda kind of game, just hanging around in one of the little towns and that. But it is a nice movie, and yeah, it's pretty good. Only Yesterday is pretty underrated. I think it's probably my favorite Isao Takahata film. He only made 5 films, I think, for Ghibli, but this is my personal favorite. I think it's probably an A, even. Like, it's a really good slice of life, kind of realistic film where an adult is looking back on her childhood while kind of revisiting it and revisiting places that she's been and experiences and things like that. And it's a good movie. I think it's pretty underrated. Next up, we have Porco Rosso, and a lot of people like this, but I'm not a huge fan of this one, to be honest. Probably another C tier. Looks once again, it looks good. Um, Great soundtrack. So you're going to hear that pretty much all these films look good and have great soundtracks. So um, you're going to hear that a lot. But yeah, the film itself, like it was kind of a bit boring in my opinion, and a bit too long for what it was. But yeah, it was okay. It's another one of the ones I've only seen once though. Ocean Waves is a TV movie that they made. They've only made two TV movies, and they're probably the worst um, things that they've made, and this one's pretty bad. It's not F tier, but it's probably a D. The animation's not very good. It's quite basic, and the story's quite boring and not very interesting. But Pompoko is one I wasn't huge on either. It's probably a C tier, maybe even a D to be honest, because I wasn't really a fan of this movie. The animation was good again, but that's about it. Whisper of the Heart is a good film. I do enjoy this one quite a bit, and probably another A tier to be honest. It's pretty close with Only Yesterday. They're both kind of slice of life stories, but there is more of a fantasy element to Whisper of the Heart. Some dream sequences and fantasy sequences and things like that. That connects the Baron character, the cat, to another film, The Cat Returns, a bit later on. So that was cool, but it's another pretty solid film. Princess Mononoke is one of their, like Totoro, it's one of their most classic, famous films, and it's probably their most adult film. Like it's a bit more violent than their other works and a bit more intense, and there's wars and things like that going on. But it's a really big, epic kind of film, and I think if you're a fan of big blockbuster fantasies like The Lord of the Rings and things like that, you'll probably really enjoy this movie. And it's an easy S tier up there with those others. Um, yes, I'd highly recommend that one. It's definitely a bit more mature than their other works. My Neighbors the Yamadas it's okay, but it's more like a comic strip panel looking film, just following this family and all their adventures, and it's more of just a light-hearted comedy about this family, but it's not super rewatchable. It doesn't have great animation. It's kind of just that basic look. But it's probably a C because it's a bit more entertaining than some of these films down here. Um, yeah, I actually own it even, so it's not too bad. Next up, we have Spirited Away, which is my personal favorite Ghibli film. So it's straight up in the S, and it's to be honest, it's most people's favorite Ghibli film, um, with Totoro and Mononoke and that. But it's really good. It's super like creative and imaginative. Great soundtrack, great visuals, great storytelling. Really makes you feel all the emotions throughout the film. Like it's amazing what they're able to actually achieve through this movie, through just visuals and music and things like that. But yeah, the storytelling is fantastic. It's unlike anything you've really seen in kind of Western um, cinema with as far as animation goes. And yeah, just really unique and cool. The Cat Returns is not really a sequel to Whisper of the Heart because it does feature a character from it, but it's a whole different story and different animation style and everything like that. And it's a bit more basic in its animation style. I wasn't a huge fan of this one. It's probably a D tier, but at the top, the D tier. It was okay, but not very rewatchable in my opinion. I know people do love it though. Howl's Moving Castle from 2004, another Miyazaki film. This is one of their best looking and most detailed films, I think. Um, just the animation is like absolutely incredible in this film. It's super colorful, super vibrant. It even incorporates, I don't know if it's CGI, but the way they make the castle look and move, like it's really clever and really stands out in the film. And it's another really creative movie like Spirited Away and all these ones in the S tier, really. So it definitely deserves to be up there. Probably my favorite looking Studio Ghibli film. Like it just looks incredible, like super good detail and colors and things like that. Um, so next up we have Tales from Earthsea. This one gets a lot of rubbish, and I can kind of see why in a way. Like it's not super imaginative or creative film, um, but I don't think it's bad. I think it's probably C tier, well, to be honest. I do like it more than these films, um, and the animation's pretty good. There were some sequences that I still remember pretty well from that movie, so it does stand out in a few ways. Next up, we have Ponyo from 2008. This is a movie that I actually really like a lot. I know it's more of a kids movie with a basic animation style, but this is just one of the most like I don't know wholesome and joyful films that I've ever seen. So it's like an easy A tier for me, or sorry S tier for me. Um, yeah, even though it's like a more basic animation style and aimed at kids, like I just seem to really enjoy this film a lot. Like it's a really fun adventure and really imaginative and creative in its style and music and everything like that. It's easily an S tier film for me, to to be honest. Just goes to show that even like movies made for kids like can still be enjoyable to adults. Even though a lot of these films are for like people of all ages, Ponyo is definitely aimed at a younger audience, but still really good for what it is. Um, so The Secret World of Arrietty is another really, oh, not, I wouldn't put it in the SYA. It's probably a B tier film to be honest. Secret World of Arrietty is about a miniature or small family, I should say, like of really tiny people that live under this person's house. And I think it's based on a book, but yeah, it's quite a fun and original film. It's got some cool ideas. Once again, nice animation, music. But yeah, it's probably on par with Kiki's Delivery Service for me, personally. Uh, Next up, we have From Up on Poppy Hill. So this is actually a movie I like quite a bit, and I think it's a bit underrated, kind of like Ponyo. Not many people seem to talk about this one when they're talking about Ghibli films, but for me, it's probably an A tier to be honest, and probably at the top of the A tier even. And it was directed by Goro Miyazaki, who did Tales from Earthsea. It was his second film, but I think it's a lot better to be honest. And it's another slice of life kind of movie, but yeah, just a really enjoyable one. Like I like that film quite a lot. Next, we have The Wind Rises, which is the most recent Hayao Miyazaki film. Came out back in 2013. Besides the one he's obviously releasing just in a few months' time. But this is a really solid film. It's based on a true story. Animation's beautiful. I do enjoy this film quite a bit, and it's probably an A. Yeah, I'd put it in the A tier to be honest. So I like that one quite a bit. Tale of the Princess Kaguya. Now, this is a film that's kind of, I don't know, I'm kind of split with this film because I really like the first half an hour of the film and the ending of the movie, to be honest. Like, those parts of the film are S tier, but there's this big portion in the middle, like an hour at least, of the film that just drags and really kind of holds it back from being up high. If you've seen the movie, you might know what I mean. 'Cause it's quite a long film. It's over 2 hours. For an animated movie, it's quite long. And yeah, it starts off really strong and ends really strong, but I just think there's this big section through the middle that's quite boring and drags. So unfortunately, I'll probably have to put it in the B tier. But this movie's got one of my favorite soundtracks as well, of all Ghibli films. So it's also got a unique animation style and art style that's different from all their other works. So definitely check that one out if you haven't seen it. Quite good. It just seems to drag in the middle. And their most recent theatrical release is When Marnie Was There from 2014. This is another one that's really solid, and this is probably the top of the A tier for me, to be honest. Very close to being an S tier film, but not quite. Um, yeah, it's just really creative. It has another great soundtrack. The visuals are beautiful. Everything's on point with that film, pretty much. It just isn't quite S tier like these films for me, but still really solid. And the most recent thing they've released is another TV movie called Earwig and the Witch, which they did, I think, in 2020, so a couple of years ago now. But this is actually their first fully CGI animation, and I don't know why they decided to go CGI because they haven't done it before. And it's a bad movie. Like, this is easily the worst thing that the studio has made, unfortunately. And it was another one done by Goro Miyazaki, who did From Up on Poppy Hill, but this is just really bad, and it seems unfinished. Like, the story, it's only like 80 minutes long, and it seems like it's missing like 10 minutes of the film at least. Animation's bad, the film's generic and boring, and yeah, it just looks like it was a TV movie from like 20 years ago, to be honest, and there's really nothing redeemable about it, so it's going to go in the F. So that's all Ghibli's films that they've released now, guys, since 1984 all the way through to Earwig and the Witch. So we do have a new Miyazaki film coming out hopefully in the next few months, which will be really cool. As I said about these films down here, they're not really Ghibli movies, they're just kind of related to the company, whether through directors or animation and things like that. But yeah, they're a really good studio, and I'd highly recommend all these S and A tier films, even the B tier films, to be honest. They're just a really unique and cool animation studio. If you haven't seen any of their stuff, then definitely check them out, because it's really different from Western kind of cinema and animation, and quite unique. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll hopefully be back with more of these lists soon, and I'll see you then. Bye.